Let's go back to those redacted Michael Cohen search warrant documents now, which we're told show the federal inquiry into President Trump's former personal attorney began in July of 2017. That is much earlier than had been previously reported, and it comes amid new signs that the Mueller investigation may be coming to an end. The last prosecutor to have worked on the Michael Flynn case reportedly is now leaving the special counsel's office. Joining me now, Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, ranking member of the House Oversight Committee. Great to see you today. So give me the signs that you think that things are wrapping up.
Well, I mean, the reason Ms. Ahmed might have left could be the fact that the Mueller report is coming soon. We all kind of suspect that it is. But it also might be a letter that Mr. Meadows and I sent to Attorney General Barr just 19 days ago. On March 1st, we sent a letter pointing out that Andrew Weissman, who's also leaving the special counsel, and Ms. Ahmed met with Bruce Orr prior to the 2016 election. And Mr. Orr conveyed to them that Christopher Steele, the author of the dossier, had talked to him, and he was conveying that information to both of these individuals who went on Bob Mueller's team, that Mr. Steele was desperate to stop Trump. So we pointed that out to Mr. Barr. Maybe that has something to do with them leaving as well. I don't know. We'll just have to we'll have to wait and see.
So I'm looking at that because my team has acquired a copy of that letter. And what specifically do you think the American people need to know right now about this investigation?
Well, remember when we conveyed that letter, we told Mr. Barr, these two individuals on Mueller's team prior to the election knew that Christopher Steele had a bias against the president. Desperate to stop Trump was the terms Mr. Orr told us in the deposition. He conveyed that to these key people at the Justice Department, not only before the election, Harris, but before they went to the FISA court the first time to get the warrant to go spy on the Trump campaign. So clear back in October of 2016, they knew that information, and they didn't give that information to the court when they went to get the warrant. That is problematic. We think that's a potential conflict. Maybe that has something to do with both of these individuals leaving the Mueller team. Maybe it's as simple as the report's coming and they're looking for another job. I don't know. But understand, too, Mr. Weissman's leaving the Justice Department altogether. That was announced last week. So maybe it has something to do with the fact that they knew this critical information and didn't convey it to the FISA court clear back before the 2016 election.
I wonder how much the American people are sensitive to the terms FISA court, because it really does come down to whether or not one side politically is able to game the situation with that secretive court, and how much we can ever look at that situation or the evidence there that the court has seen. That's important, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican.
Yeah, it sure is. And I tell you what I think most Americans are sensitive to. They're sensitive to the double standard. I mean, we talk about Michael Cohen. I mean, look, we learned from this information. Michael Cohen lied to banks. He lied to the IRS. They were surveilling him and getting information from him much earlier than we thought.
He's a criminal liar.
Right, and we know that he lied to Congress and then came in front of Congress and lied again. But what it underscores to me is, think of the difference between how he was treated and Michael Flynn was treated and Roger Stone was treated compared to Secretary Clinton. She had 60-some thousand documents on her personal server, but she and her lawyers, Cheryl Mills, Heather Samerson, David Kendall, they got to decide on the front end which ones we on the Benghazi Committee and the government got to see and which ones were personal in nature. Completely different standards, completely different treatment. And as I've talked to constituents, particularly in the 4th District of Ohio, they are troubled by this double standard that exists and certainly I think is obvious in how these individuals were handled.
Again, it is a topic for both sides of the political aisle because it really has to do with what the public cannot see and what is fair. Representative Jim Jordan, ranking member, thank you very much for being on the program.
Nearly 9 years after President Obama signed the Affordable Care Act, upending the political battle, Democrats are now facing a new fight over health care. The progressive push for Medicare for All is proving to be divisive in the party. Some 2020 candidates like Senator Elizabeth Warren have been pushing for an overhaul of the health care system. Watch.
When we talk about Medicare for All, there are a lot of different pathways. What we're all looking for is the lowest cost way to make sure everybody gets covered. We figure out how to do Medicare for All in a way that makes sure that we're going to get 100% coverage in this country at the lowest possible cost.
Some moderate Democrats have been cautioning that government-run programs could backfire with many voters who depend on health care from their employers. But now even some House members seen as more moderate, like Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, are embracing Medicare for All.
Medicare for All is not a new concept.
Right.
It was actually introduced in the early 40s after Social Security passed. I know what the health care costs are doing in this country, and we've got to find a way to reduce them. But I also know that every American's got a right to affordable quality health care.
All right. Split issue here, definitely. Private insurance, we're not talking about that as much anymore. Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
She's allergic to statism. Oh my goodness.
The whole control room. Thank you, guys. I need it.
Yes. Okay. Where do you think that this goes, and do you think that it actually matters where the candidate is on this because everyone runs back to the middle come general election time?
Yes, I think people will run back to the middle because it's very easy to be for Medicare for all now because it's untenable and it's never going to pass, certainly in the political climate as it's configured right now. So for people like Debbie Dingell, you can say whatever you want. You could say you're for UBI. You could say you're for all these things. They're not going to pass. When you're talking about health insurance, if you want to lower costs, and I know it's a filthy concept, give people more choices, and that also means some people will only choose catastrophic coverage. That's what insurance was intended for. And, you know, the idea of negotiating with a doctor or a hospital is completely foreign to most people who interface with the healthcare system. And it shouldn't be. You should be able to go in and see a list of services like you would at a spa and say, okay, well, this person is charging this much for this procedure, and over here I only have to pay $700. And we should have choices like that. We should have a free market. We should have healthcare accounts. We should have cross-state insurance policies, and we really don't have that by and large.
So I'm curious, Ian, to get your perspective on this. Everyone would agree that Democrats have won, certainly the midterm elections on the healthcare issue. What do Republicans do now? Because I know what we're fighting about. So how do Republicans get people to turn out for them on the issue of healthcare?
Well, I think this is a perfect example. I mean, Medicare for all, if that works its way into a Democrat budget.
What's your policy, though? What's the GOP policy on healthcare? I know what Democrats are putting forward, so what can Republicans say?
Well, I mean, I think the GOP policies are similar to what they've been for years, right? Across state lines, offer insurance. I think employer insurance is key. Tax breaks for insurance as opposed to mandates. I mean, those are all key tenets of free market capitalism that Republicans have been talking about for years that haven't happened. That's obviously not going to happen with a Democratic House, but if we get Medicare for all in a Democrat budget, that's going to be really problematic for all these Democrats that just won in competitive seats. Because what do? If they vote for it, then they're going to hurt themselves with swing voters in 2020. If they don't vote for it, they're going to hurt themselves with their base in 2020. So one of the most dangerous things that Nancy Pelosi could do is put Medicare for all in the mainstream Democrat budget.
Well, it's interesting. If it comes to a vote on the floor of the Senate, people will just vote present because obviously the numbers are there not to get it through, so they can kind of get away with that. So hopefully this doesn't get kicked off in the House. But I'm curious on your view here, Katie. Repeal and replace, which was what Republicans campaigned on, hasn't panned out here. Do you see a bill coming down the pike on the Republican side, or?
Look, Republicans don't need to be focused on a government solution, too. So you say repeal and replace, and everybody thinks there has to be this government replacement of a government program that completely failed and is now leading us down to a socialist medical system. When people like Elizabeth Warren say we need coverage for all people, that's actually a very dishonest way to have this debate because coverage is not medical care. And as we've seen with Obamacare, there are longer wait times. You can't use your insurance because you can't afford to use your insurance, so it's basically worthless, and a whole host of other problems when it comes to actually receiving real medical care and tests. And so what the solution to this is to take the government out of it, to allow for more transparency, to hold healthcare institutions accountable for being open and honest about what their pricing is, and allow competition so the pricing can go down and allow people to pay for things out of pocket rather than through insurance.
It's a great Harris.
I was just going to say real quickly, I was watching Kirsten Gillibrand on another network as you were watching that Warren town hall. And this seems to be now a litmus test for Democrats. And the big question is, are you going to completely get rid of private? And you heard Elizabeth Warren talking about, well, you're going to kind of ramp down. She used Bernie Sanders as an interesting example, I thought. But you can't just get rid of everything. So what is it going to look like? Because if you don't have the choice that Kennedy and Ian were talking about, then where are you? And if it's not real coverage, because it doesn't get you any closer to seeing the doctor quickly, how valuable is that? It's not even worth $1. You've got to get in to see the doctor, and I don't see anybody with those answers right now.
I think we'll be lowering the Medicare age is my guess.